I guess I have to walk you through it, hold your hand, and explain to you. A grown man doesn't know what's appropriate or not, but it's okay though.
Not really. I already explained to you what the
It's
issue
okay.
is.
I'll be the mom you never had. It's okay. Oh, you're hurt because rejected you and didn't want to
Rejected
get you
what?
back.
Rejected
It's
what?
okay. It's okay, Stinky Boo. It's alright. It happens. The strongest men happen too.
The incident with my coworker earlier this year really bothered me. This was a person I trusted who, in the span of 6 weeks, went from readily agreeing to go see a movie with me to trying to get me fired. The idea of returning to Discord, a site that I have had problems with in the past, partially came from the hope that I could wash the bad taste of my coworker out of my mouth with someone new. Before officially returning, I told my friend about my plans. He reminded me of my past bad experiences with the site and wished me good luck, saying of me forming a positive relationship with a woman, "It'll be the most amazing thing ever." Now, it's important to understand how these dynamics begin. I'll typically join some new server, and since I prefer speaking voice to voice instead of typing, I'll join the VC. From there, I will encounter whoever else is in there, and many times, if we get along pretty well, I'll send the person either a friend request or some DM. We might get to talking for some time after that, where I normally will start off by just asking them how they're doing, what kind of things they like, etc. It's just me trying to get a read on the person I'm speaking to and hopefully avoid any pitfalls that I might not be aware of, which could make them not want to talk to me. But it's hard to avoid pitfalls when anything and everything can cause someone to just snap on you, usually in a passive aggressive way where they unfriend or block you for whatever the transgression. It really just leaves me feeling like a fly that they're trying to swat away. In one of the first weird encounters of the last 3 weeks, there was a woman who complimented me, and I sent her a friend request. As we began speaking in messages, she asked me if I was underage, and I confirmed I was not. I mentioned that in the past I have been criticized for my voice, and she expressed an interest in hearing it. Once I sent a voice note, a 6 second clip of me speaking, she asked me if I was trying to make a romantic play at her, and I was fairly annoyed by this because I know next to nothing about her. She claimed that me doing this would only have been a problem if I was interested in her, but has proceeded to ignore me ever since, in spite of me clarifying that I don't want her. We had one woman from Australia that joined the VC while I was in, and we had what I thought was an enjoyable conversation. I didn't see her for the next few days, but I figured she was probably just busy with whatever real life obligations she had. The next time I saw her, she joined the VC I was in for at least an hour. She just sat in the call, barely saying anything. I made a few attempts at joking with her, but nothing seemed to budge. Eventually, this other guy came in the VC and asked if they could go to her server. She agreed, and the pair left together. This rubbed me the wrong way because I thought it was very rude to not only not speak through the duration of the time we were together, but to also jump out of the call and get away from the person who was trying to talk to you. If I were around someone that I wanted to talk to and I had a server that another person was prodding me to go in, I would at least give the courtesy of inviting the person that I joined the other VC to talk to an invite to my server so they could join in this future dialogue. I met a lady who was a big drinker, had a nice time speaking to her in text, and sent her a friend request. She accepted it, and I noticed that she was on invisible mode, which is a feature that prevents others from knowing when a user is online. I sent her a message asking when I would ever know when she was online again and was promptly unfriended. Another memorable woman was one that came into the server a few months before I did with a username that was so profane that I thought she was a male troll using the picture of an attractive woman. I joined the VC she was in, and she talked about how her boyfriend had mistreated her. While a normal person would probably address these problems with their partner instead of babbling about it to strangers, she decided it would be a good idea to make a PowerPoint that was 10 slides long on why he was wrong for treating her the way that he did. I joined some of the other users in making fun of her stupid username, and to my surprise, she sent me a friend request and called me from a DM. She instructs me to read her PowerPoint, and I do this, dialogue being littered with her giggling like a toddler and dousing me in compliments. Did you like the narration?
I did. You should actually, if you did a book, like if you read books, I'd listen because your voice is actually
Yeah,
pretty
right.
soothing. Other than like the funny hinges that you add to the way that you read it.
They say I sound like an AI.
I'm gonna say AI. You sound like somebody on like a podcast. Like your mic is just really clear.
Would you prefer I had a
Maybe
less
when
clear
you're
mic?
reading. Huh?
Would you prefer I had a
No.
less clear mic?
No. I was just saying, like, if you read books or like did voice acting and stuff like that, you'd do really good, I think.
I don't think you would watch. I think you'd lose interest very quickly. You'd be
Reading?
Yeah, you'd be too busy getting mad at people for getting jumped.
I got jumped.
She abruptly leaves the call that she started, and later in the day I sent her a greeting. I start to mention my coworker and give the PowerPoint woman another nickname, which upsets her to the point of blocking me. I found out after the fact that she had actually gone around trying to get multiple people to read her stupid PowerPoint, and I was apparently the only one willing to sit there and go through it with her, so I got a lovely reward by being blocked less than 24 hours later. She's just another example of how quickly these Discord dingbats will change on you. Now, we've been having some laughs at their insanity, but there was one of them that truly managed to get under my skin. As much as I claim to have accepted this is how women are and just accepted not to take anything too seriously with one of them, this one lone lunatic defied the odds and genuinely has upset me. I'm going to call her Tuna. I met Tuna last week. We were in a group call together as she was playing games with others, and during this 3 hour call, we made multiple compliments towards each other. This included her complimenting my unique writing style and saying that I was her favorite person in the VC, which I have proof of her saying. Don't worry, I'll come to Africa at some point.
Let's go. I'll give you a tour.
No,
I don't think you want a tour of Morocco.
Morocco's beautiful, so I don't know what you mean.
Dude, she'll be too busy playing Valorant to give me a tour.
Nah, I don't like Valorant. Come on, I just downloaded it today.
All right, you'll be playing.
Okay. The reason why I wanted to find people to play D with, and I tried to join VCs, but everyone was so weird. So I was like, and I stopped.
Well, I apologize for being weird. If
you
you,
in a bad time.
no, I apologize for being weird. If you want me to leave the VC, just let me know. I can click disconnect right now.
You're fine. You're very punctual, though.
Damn, she called you punctual. That's crazy.
Like, you're so... What's the word? Like, when someone is like... You have proper grammar, but it's, like, so weird because no one on here, like, actually makes effort to, like, put the comma.
No, it really hurt my feelings.
Wait, what happened? What did I do?
You said I was your least favorite person in the VC.
I didn't say that. I said that...
You said that when you heard my voice, it was like nails in a chalkboard.
What do you think
I
about
didn't
me,
say
Chad?
that. I'd say you're, like, my favorite person in this VC at this moment.
At one point, she mentions having been cheated on repeatedly on the part of her boyfriends with overweight women, which offended her because she is skinny. We also had a pretty lengthy exchange of messages where I asked her about herself. She would answer and seemed very receptive to me. Eventually, she got around to making a comment that rubbed me the wrong way, claiming that she had a kid, putting aside the fact that I thought it was absolutely insane that someone with a child could spend half a dozen hours playing a game. This bothered me because, as I've said before, I wanted to have a family, and that was a big part of the reason I kept torturing myself talking to the modern woman. Now, I want it to be understood that she had no way of knowing that such a remark would bother me, and for that reason, I did not, nor do I blame her. I left the VC after this, and to my surprise, she actually noticed that I left and reached out to me. I cryptically alluded to it at first, but I eventually revealed the reason and what had bothered me. She seemed interested in getting to know me and proceeded to reveal things about herself, even sending me pictures of her brother and herself. I, in turn, sent her a picture of myself, and we began plotting to have a solo VC where it was just me and her talking before both of us got tired and decided against it. This exchange was unique in that it really was the only time with any of the women described in this video that I let my guard down and became convinced that one of them actually wanted to get to know me. Why else would she message me about why I had left the VC unless she wanted to keep speaking to me? Why else would she ask about the thing that caused me to leave unless she wanted to get to know me? The next time I encountered her in a VC, she was very distant. I assumed it was because she was preoccupied with the game she was playing. Some people came into the VC and she abruptly left, calling them annoying. I agreed with her and floated the idea of having a private VC only for her to not respond to me for the rest of the day. From then on, we had little to no interactions, and I began to notice her coming online for periods after I sent her a message that she never responded to. So I devised that the final thing I would do before throwing in the towel and sending her nothing else would be to write her a poem. I'm only not showing the poem because it contains references to personal things relating to both of us, but she responded very quickly and asked if I actually wrote it. I confirmed that I did and had been missing her, to which she responded by asking why. And I explained why and noted that we had, never got to have the one-on-one VC that she agreed to. She followed this up with mentioning that she joined the server VC, and I elaborate that I meant the VC she had agreed to before we both got tired last week. She then performs the favorite move of a Discord dingbat and blocks me, which inspired me to talk about them. When the block button was hit, a video was greenlit. I had a feeling after our first interaction that she had lost interest for whatever reason. Here's the part I can't understand. Now, most of the women we've talked about today are people who maybe tell me one or two things about themselves, but for the most part, we don't really open up to each other. I can't understand the logic of telling a man about your brother, your mother, your father, your past relationships, inquiring about the things that bother him enough to shut himself off from others, just to block him when he writes a poem after days of not hearing from you. And I don't write things like that for just anyone. I felt more comfortable being myself after she had told me as many things about her as she did that I could possibly get invested in this, and instead it was just another cruel joke. Suppose the situation was reversed and there was some woman who I told about my family and she told me about hers, and after some days of us not talking, she writes me a poem and says she misses me. Do you really think that would inspire me to block her? I thought that would be the end of it, but 2 Saturdays ago added a new twist. We were in a group VC together, and she begins mentioning that she blocked some guy for not being sympathetic towards her as she is dealing with relationship issues. I thought she was talking about me and made a comment about her being a liar and also mocked her voice. Now, I did this assuming she had me muted, which is when you can not hear someone but they can hear you. But she proceeded to claim that it wasn't me, unblocked me, and then sent me a screenshot of the guy that she was actually talking about. This initiated an exchange where I asked, "Do you really hate me for admitting I missed you?" She replied, "Dude, you do realize we just met, right? And you do realize it's highly inappropriate to converse with me that way when you know I have a partner." So this clears up any misunderstanding about why she did what she did. I was blocked for saying I missed her. When I think of something highly inappropriate in terms of what a man would say to a woman with a boyfriend, I would think it would be something along the lines of, "I can't wait to get you alone," or "I don't care if you're with someone, you should be with me." I can't understand how admitting that I missed her was a bad thing. I've had the realization that women online really will drop you over anything. We mentioned the one earlier that blocked me for calling her a nickname based on her username. And here we have someone who is thoroughly convinced that me writing that I missed her was highly inappropriate. And this is in tandem with her trying to minimize the significance of our interaction. So while we have only known each other for a week, we mutually opened up after spending several hours together. And this is not something I do very often. "Dude, you do realize we just met, right?"
You're missing the point.
I also want to point this out. In unblocking me, she sent me a screenshot of the message of the person she was actually talking about. And what I thought was interesting was how profanity-laced the message was. It was antagonistic enough to where I could see where she'd be annoyed by it and want to not hear from the person anymore. But when I compare it to what I wrote her saying I missed her, I can't help but notice how different our responses to her were, but our result was the same nonetheless. Now, over this past weekend, we were in a few more VCs together, and it's really difficult to be around her and just pretend we're not on bad terms. Eventually, one of the guys who's annoyed with her relays this to me, and I mentioned what happened between us to him. She unmutes her mic, and this leads to a dialogue where she repeats how inappropriate it was to say I missed her after we had only known each other for like 2 days, says that I was trauma dumping, claims that she never liked me, that I forced her to accept my friend request because I kept bothering her about it. You know, I can accept that someone doesn't want to talk to me anymore, but what I find so disgusting is the revisionist history in her recounting of what happened You never liked me, but you noticed I left the VC and inquired as to where I went. You never liked me, but you told me all these personal things about yourself. Men online have always tried to tell me that I need to take responsibility or be accountable with regard to relationships. But where are these guys when a woman claims that I forced her to speak to me on the very same website that allows her to mute me so she doesn't have to hear my voice and block me so I can't write her anything? And if we're going off of the logic of her lie, I'm the same person who can make someone accept my friend request and trade dozens of messages with me, but I'm also unable to stop her from blocking me. What happened? Did she finally free herself from my mind control? Sunday at 5 in the morning, while I was sleeping, I received the message on the screen from one of her goons. She joined the VC I was in later in the day, which I thought was weird since she apparently despises me now. And her goon joined the VC I was in to talk to me. He left after being ignored, and I joined one she was in sometime after that. It was in this encounter that she told me that a guy had messaged her about me, which I told her I had nothing to do with, and her way of retaliating was to tell others in the VC about my poem to her and have it read aloud. She proceeds to claim that I'm a grown, expletive man who doesn't know what's appropriate and what isn't, and asks if I'm hurt because a B word rejected me. Now, first of all, it is borderline impossible to get me to feel embarrassed about something I write online, especially since I couldn't care less about the opinions of a bunch of random people on the computer. Secondly, I told this bimbo repeatedly that I didn't want to date her or become her boyfriend or anything romantic whatsoever. She seemed to acknowledge this in our messages, but since everything with women has to have this erotic subtext, she asserts that I'm mad at being rejected by someone who I wasn't trying to date in the first place. So, what is there to reject? She really sounds like a self parody in the sense that you can explain that you don't want to date them, but because you're male and they have a triangle, this must be your intention, even if you say over and over again that it isn't. This message that the goon wrote is truly one of the most pathetic things that has ever been directed toward me online. It's up there with Molecule Splitter in terms of peak stupidity. Her trying to get revenge and insulting me at least makes sense from the perspective of us having some prior interactions that did not go well. This random guy, in an attempt to appeal to a woman who will never touch him, artificially inserts himself into a feud that has nothing to do with him. Think about this. Her boyfriend isn't even trying to argue with or insult me on her behalf, but this random clown gets to try antagonizing me as though she's going to materialize where he is and reward him. But after this happened, I had a better idea of who I was dealing with. The last message I sent her was asking if she wanted me to apologize, and that was because I really didn't want to become enemies. Everything she's done since blocking me has been doubling down on that because she wants drama and she wants to pretend that I am this evil man with some unrequited desires for her. I've said this before. I couldn't care less about any of these parasites. Normally, I vent in a video and then never make any attempt at reaching out or talking to that person again. The only thing that makes her different from any of the other freaks I've encountered over the past 3 weeks is her getting me to lower my guard and reveal personal things, which was mutually done before she decided to turn a deaf ear to the voices of peace and reason. I've always been fascinated in parallels, the various things that I notice the people I talk to have in common with each other in spite of often never directly meeting, as it can clue one into what may happen next. Some of the weird stuff about my coworker that I discovered after asking her to go see a movie with me included her refusing to do telephone calls and barely being able to respond to text messages. When I next began a dialogue with one of the women at my job, she revealed she did not do telephone calls and showed herself barely able to answer my text messages, which led me to abort trying to pursue any further communications with her, for I suspected it would lead down a similar path to the one I experienced with the Mixed Signals Queen. Tuna shares a lot in common with Miss Revolving Door. A woman who is in a relationship shares a lot about herself, at some point either blocks me or makes it to where I can't speak to them anymore, then comes back for a brief period just to double down on her stupidity. She also has some similarities with the Mixed Signals Queen in terms of being a woman who I attempted to be friends with, had some falling out with, and still had to see after the falling out, making it all the more difficult to not think about her. It was my bad experience with Miss Revolving Door that led me to believe that computer women were nuts and maybe I should try only trying to be friends with ones in real life. It was my bad experience with the Mixed Signals Queen that led me to believe that real life women could not only be nuts but also try to destroy you. But in coming back to the internet and getting the same result again from someone that I was more invested in than most of them, it's really not hard to see where I have the belief that there is no path forward with women. It's either they say they like you, but get disinterested and stop responding, or they say they like you, but then get mad over something that's really not that big of a deal and use that as a justification to throw you away. In conclusion, I'm glad her boyfriend cheated on her. The fat women that she condemns probably had better, more stable personalities than her, and I hope she keeps getting cheated on. By the way, the same boyfriend that she was like so desperate to defend the honor of by blocking me for writing the highly inappropriate comment, I have proof that she was talking trash about in messages with me regarding. There was a guy I spoke with during the production of this video who said that I shouldn't take interactions with online women seriously. I retorted that you can't take real life women seriously either, and cited the situation with my coworker as an example of this. The reality is that many men don't come online trying to have relationships, be they platonic or romantic, with women, unless the ones they've tried to have in real life did not pan out. I've said this before. This is an era of lies, con artists, and deceit. It seems the only thing that can be guaranteed about women is that they will either lose interest and not bother trying or get mad over anything, whether that's asking when they'll be online again, making fun of their stupid username, or saying you miss them and use that as a justification to discard of you. So I guess the only path forward is just running into more women who are eventually either going to abruptly stop responding to me or get mad over something dumb and ditch me over that. If you talk to a woman in real life, she can try to destroy your livelihood. And if you talk to a woman online, she can get you invested in speaking to her just to either abruptly quit responding or get mad at you over anything. So either way, you just can't win.